Hello, my name's Ruth Walker.
Hello, my name's Joy Whitlock.
Thank you so much for joining us at the last session, particularly on a Friday afternoon on a bank holiday. That means a great deal to Joy and I, and we're hoping that you're going to take away some things that you can take back to your organisation or to you personally as you develop and grow around leadership in improvement. So that's the aim of our session today. So, tell me how many of you feel like this? Ring a bell? Yeah, that's what it feels like for me to be an executive director in an NHS organisation in Wales. I'll just share with you for a moment yesterday, so indulge me if you won't mind. Yesterday I dealt with, whilst travelling to conference, 3 serious safeguarding issues. I received a homicide review to report on, 1 serious incident relating to a chest strain, a press inquiry about a child who'd had delay and waiting for their surgery, 4 reports to prepare for committee, a briefing for a chief exec, and 250 emails, and a group of neonatal nurses who were worried and complaining about the colour of their uniform. A normal day in an executive's life, I would guess. What I didn't think about until I was preparing and refreshing my presentation today was that we didn't have any never events. Our patient satisfaction survey is 98%. We received 4 concerns yesterday, all about process, none about the quality of care that we provide. We received 10 compliments, which were extraordinary in their generosity about the quality of care that we were providing to our patients. We've delivered safely into the world 116 babies so far this week. And we've probably allowed a number of people to pass away with a great deal of dignity and respect. That's what life is like as an executive working in an NHS organisation. So as a leader, whilst all that's ongoing, it really is like juggling soot most of the time. But what I do know is that I'm not alone. I'm not alone as a leader at an executive level because I have other executives who are equally balancing and juggling soot. You notice that these individuals are doing it on balls with smiley faces, and actually they're smiling themselves. And I'm really lucky that I have a group of executives that do smile most of the time, even with that level of challenge. What I also learn when I walk my wards or speak to my teams in clinical areas, what they share with me is they're also juggling life, their own personal lives, but the challenges that the NHS and care delivery provides for us. But what they do also tell me is that they have the solutions to these problems. Frequently they tell me that. And that was really, really relevant 3 years ago when we started to try and put together an improvement programme. But let me begin by telling you a little bit about our organisation. For those of you who don't know Wales, it's a really beautiful place to be. It's full of lovely mountains. It rains quite a lot, and we do like our rugby, as some of our colleagues referred to this morning, but I won't go there. Cardiff and the Vale University Health Board has been in a health board since 2009, when we had a major reorganisation. We are one of the largest organisations, integrated organisations in Europe. We employ 14,500 staff. We have a budget of 1.4 billion, and we do tend to overspend that a little bit from time to time, which just brings some challenge with it. We employ over 40 different healthcare professionals working in primary care, community care, mental health services, in our community services. We provide secondary care and tertiary care for all parts of Wales. So this is not a small organisation, and it is very, very complex. In previous organisations where I've been an executive, I could have named you all my ward sisters and charge nurses. You certainly couldn't do that in this organisation of this size. So, what is the role for leadership? When I look at the organisation I'm in, this year, that's year 16 into 17, 2016 into 17, we did deliver all of our surgical targets for 9 consecutive quarters. We made improvements in unscheduled care, cancer and stroke. We delivered all of our mental health targets, but our finance is a challenge. In the time that I've been a nurse director, I've seen 4 chief executives, and number 5 arrives in June. I've seen 5 directors of finance, 2 planning directors, 5 chief operating officers, 2 medical directors. That's not got bad going for a changing executive team. But what that tells me is that nothing is constant in healthcare. So I'm constantly working whilst juggling the challenges of day-to-day work. I'm juggling with different people, with different personalities and different approaches and how they wish to focus on different things. So what we did in our organisation was agree that we required a strategy that we could commit to as an executive team, at an operational level and with frontline staff, that actually was deliverable in the long term. Because we felt if we had a longer term strategy, then there was much more potential for us to stick to that, whoever was in what role, whenever they were there. So we developed a strategy called Caring for People, Keeping People Well. And as part of the development of that strategy, we did it with our staff and we did it with our patients. And that made a big difference. What we also knew was that although we were improving our performance month on month, year on year, we had a long way to go. Prior to becoming an organisation, one of the previous organisations had a Safer Patient initiative. So we knew that there were people within the organisation who had done QI before. We also had some fantastic examples of good practice since 2009. We'd made, using QI methodology, a 70% improvement on our C. difficile rates. Now, don't get us wrong, they were far too high in the first place, but that is a huge improvement and a really mobilized organization trying to deliver that. But much of what we were doing really well, such as co-production and patient stories, and utilizing social media to understand what's happening and what our patients feel like to be cared for in our organization, we were not doing this at scale for everything, and it didn't at all align with the strategy we were now trying to take forward. In fact, it was pretty random quite a lot of the time. So what we knew was we had a direction of travel that we'd all aligned to. We knew when we talked to our staff that they wanted to make a difference and they knew what was wrong. So you know when you have one of those light bulb moments? Well, I had one. And I had a chief executive at that time that understood QI. And I sat in a room with him and said, we can't carry on like this. We're all exhausted. We're all trying to deliver everything. We're not necessarily getting to where we need to go, but we know that our staff can do it and that QI is the way to do that. So it was at that time we decided that the approach we needed to take was start to look at how we use QI as an approach to moving things forward. Now, all good leaders know that they require an expert, and they also should know that they require joy in the workplace. Well, I was pretty lucky because I got joy and an expert all in one go.
So, yes, my name is Joy. I try to be joy and I try to give joy. But about 3.5 years ago, I felt like this. The challenge was laid down to start to create an improvement programme. And our previous experiences were through the Safer Patient initiative. We'd had executive buy-in, we've had some small-scale frontline staff doing some great work. And what we really failed to do systematically was to meet those people in the middle, our senior medical and nursing and managerial leaders. We systematically had failed to meet them. And these are the people that make the difference between moving from small scale to providing the resources, providing the funding, providing the permission to move from that small scale to implementation and spread. So we established a great steering group, and in my infinite wisdom, I advised the steering group that we should target these people as our primary audience for our new programme. And bearing in mind that the representation on the steering group were these people, there was general agreement. So I thought, great, except for one person called Dawn. Now, Dawn, fantastic lady, senior occupational therapist, but a union representative. And she said, absolutely no way am I going to endorse something that is elitism. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it for the whole health board. Well, thanks to Dawn, I tore my hair out and thought, this is impossible. You have to know your target audience. And we'd already thought we've got mental health, primary care, surgery, specialist services. We were going to throw in some non-clinical teams as well, and to have the whole of the health board included. That was a massive, massive challenge, and without Dawn's challenge then, we wouldn't be here today. So I've got something to thank her for, and in fact, she's just joined our recent cohort. When we're trying to communicate with the whole health board, we have to have a communication strategy. And we have a corporate communication strategy, which is kind of effective, but not totally effective. It only gets so far. We've got a lot of frontline staff that don't have emails or don't access our intranet pages. So we set this communication strategy, and we had to choose our messengers very carefully. We tasked the steering group members to go out to their respective colleagues and take those personal messages that had been adapted. And we also went out to other meetings that were already in existence. So it was a very, very personal approach to start to spread this idea of leading improvement in patient safety to try and engage people. And of course, you need branding, don't you? So I'm thinking lips, leading improvement, patient safety, nice big red juicy lips. And one of the consultants on the steering group said, you won't engage us with that one. So we compromised. I've referenced here Helen Bevan's work because there's a great source of motivational language. To engage people, we really have to not just engage with the intellect, but it is all about the hearts and the minds. And we had to make it easy for people to join the party. I didn't want to go through project proposals. I didn't want staff to waste time writing project proposals. So we just said, if you've got an issue you want to explore, you've got an improvement you want to make, go talk to your team, go talk to your managers, and escalate it up so that those people that are making the decisions about what can be done, that everything is aligned to the strategic direction of the health board. And basically most things did anyway. And all they then had to do was email me with the names of people and the sort of area that they were going to be working on. And then I could personally send out the information from there on. We decided to sanction non-attendance, and that means if people said they were coming and didn't turn up, that meant that we would charge them, or we would charge their clinical boards. And the reason for this was it said to the managers, this is really important. You must make proper provision to release your staff to come to this programme and to provide the resources for them to deliver the much needed improvements that they were going to make. And it also took the conflict away from the staff that were coming in their teams. Because you know what it's like, you go on a course and your teammates are really busy and mentally you think, oh, maybe I should go back to work. It took that conflict out so that we could really concentrate on the job of improvement. And first off, we had no idea how this was going to be taken up, so we encouraged our steering group members to lead their own teams as we went along. Just as we were about to start, the Health Foundation published these two documents, and I've put them there for your future reference, really. We found them extremely useful. Constructive Comfort, Accelerating Change in the NHS, as a policy analysis, so that we could then look back and think about what we need to put in place, and also what's getting in the way, what might stop us delivering. And if they're completely free to download from the Health Foundation website, which I'd encourage you to do. Within that, the constructive comfort, there's 7 success factors that are for change in the NHS identified. So we kind of use those as a checklist as a steering group to make sure that we've got all these things in place, or we're going to put them in place. And then on day one of the LIPS programme, we encourage the teams to do the same, so that they check locally that they've got everything that they need, and if not, that they can have those right conversations with their managers. Now, each of our cohorts of the LIPS programme consists of around about 100 people working in around about 20 teams on 20 improvement projects, and it's an 8-day programme. So this is quite expensive on a lot of measures. So we have to maximise the retention and use of the learning that they have. So apologies that this is a lecture, because actually your retention of knowledge from this is probably on the smaller scale. But on the higher scale, in the learning environment, we use a lot of discussion, a lot of practice by doing, and then the structure is that they can then take that learning and implement it immediately in their workplace. I was tasked to recruit the very best people that could come and help us deliver this programme, and you'll recognise Jason Leach there, and we're very, very grateful. I knew him well enough, and I thought, he's a very busy man, but I'll just ask. And he said yes, and for me that just speaks volumes about the generosity and the care and the support that we have in our quality improvement community. And our chief pharmacist there is actively learning. We put an evidence-based structure in place also, which is based on the IHI 90-day innovation process. So we have the first 3 days of learning, they take that learning, put it into practice in that action period, another 2 days of learning, put that into practice for about a month, 2 more days, then about a month, and then we have a celebration event at the end of the day, at the end of the 90 days, where teams are expected to demonstrate project progress and how they've used that learning. Again, another superb piece of reference from the Health Foundation, Skilled for Improvement. We know that we need the technical skills, which is what we've concentrated on before, the model for improvement, the measurement, the management, the methodology, the systems diagnostic skills. But we also knew that we needed those softer skills, and that's why we called it leading improvement in patient safety. So things around communication and conflict management and leadership and administrative skills. And we were putting in the learning skills as we layered them in. And so I guess we've been at this about 10 years, and it's quite interesting to think how we've moved from, this is what you've got to do, we know it's a square peg and you've got a round hole, but here's a mallet and bash it in, to these are some ideas for change, and here are the tools and techniques that you can use to implement them.
Thanks, Joy. As Joy said, having international speakers come to talk really was the focus of that, was to ensure that our staff recognised how important we thought this programme was, how we really valued them by bringing in the best, and we've continued to do that. We're not spending a fortune, but they do feel valued. What they also tell us is the value comes in the time that they have together as a team, and that was some of the improvement learning that we did as a steering group. We asked them to evaluate each time they had a speaker and to evaluate about the day. What that told us was we were putting lots of great people coming along, telling them lots of things, wasn't necessarily giving them the opportunity to talk to one another, to build that relationship as a team. So this is what our program looks like now, and we'll talk to you a little bit more about the detail of that. And this is our 4th year. The current cohort, who started last week, they're made up of 100 delegates. That's 20 teams and 20 improvement projects. 20 improvement projects times 3 times in a year, that's 60 improvement projects. That's pretty good going, I'd say. But of course, not all of them come to fruition, and that's as important too. So, Hearts and Minds are also about those leaders in the organisation that they see or they know every day. So the gentleman with the glasses on, is a gentleman called Dr. David Scott Coombs. David is an eminent surgeon, and as you can tell from his dicky bow tie, he can be a little pompous at times, but we love him dearly. But he's not a man to always tell you when he makes mistakes. So I asked him, would he be prepared to do that? And he was really generous and forthcoming. And he told our first cohort, and has continued to do that, about when he made a mistake, what he learned from that mistake, and how it's changed his practice, and how his relationship with patients has changed considerably. That made such a difference to the room. And the fact that people had permission to actually start to say, well, I made a mistake, and I made a mistake, and I made a mistake, you start to change that safety culture so people become more comfortable to talk about the learning. So I'm really proud and feel very honored that David has done that for us, and others have followed him. Our other gentleman up there is Terence Canning. Terence came to share with us, as a part of a patient's story, his experience of losing his brother at the age of 34 from sepsis. We begin as a health board every meeting that we have with a patient's story, and wherever possible, we invite the patient or their carer or a member of the clinical team to tell that story. So why would we not do that for this program too? So Terence has been a huge supporter of the program and has been generous in sharing his story and the challenge that that's brought for him. It's definitely improved our safety culture within the organization. But as Joy has said, all good programs need to have an element of evidence-based behind them, as well as the emotional feeling and experiential learning that we have within the room. So when it comes to leadership and the leadership part of the program, we have leaned predominantly on the international best-selling book by Steve Radcliffe Associates. And one of that team has been present and presented part of this program for us throughout our cohorts. What the book tells us is that great leaders create vision and purpose for the future. I shared with you, when I first took the stage today, what happened in my life at work yesterday. Now, I could very easily spend my day doing the doing. But actually, if I keep doing the doing, then actually we're not going to have that leadership and direction that we require. So I would really encourage you all, because we are all leaders at whatever part of the organization we are in. And I'm more and more, as I mature in this role, I understand that actually the experts are at a much more junior level of the organization. We really need to give them time and space to be able to grow and develop and to feel valued as individuals and in their contribution. So this is what, unlike any other business, we require 4 types of energy. This is what the book is telling us, and that's what we're finding in reality. So we explore all 4 energies. And we explore those 4 energies in trying to understand what is it that I, as the individual, bring to the leadership role. That will be very unique for each one of you in different contexts. But then we ask you to recognize what it is that the organization needs from you as an individual, but also you within a team. So if I look at physical energy as an example, I pick out quite regularly that stamina and persistence is a quality that I need to pull on a regular basis, particularly on a Friday night when you've had quite a challenging week, and you're really determined to keep on pushing and driving things forward. In the context of intellectual energy, I know that I need to listen and pay attention and then analyze the information that I'm given. I need to actively listen, and that's to listen to my patients, but to listen to the staff, so that we can hear the cynics in the room and they're given opportunity to share with us their alternative view. Because some of us, when we're trying to drive things forward, can be doing it with voices in our heads that are not always what's happening in reality. And I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the emperors standing there with no clothes on. not something that I would recommend. The other two energies, spiritual energy, well, that's the energy that creates the vision and purpose, and the time to breathe in life and look at what's happening around you. It would be terribly sad, as Joy was saying to me earlier, if I realized I'd got to my career with all this skill and knowledge and then wondered whether I'd imparted it upon anybody to make a difference to those that are going to look after me as I get older. I can quite happily tell her she's imparted her knowledge. But also emotional energy is about relationships and teams and patience, and as I said, about them being equal to one another. So actually it doesn't matter if you are a porter in an organization, your voice is as loud and needs to be heard as much as the chief execs. So we actively need to be aware of that. But we need to be aware of our own energies. If we go into a room with a low energy, that will inevitably have an impact on what we do. And that's really very relevant in the relationships to results. What we know is that size matters. Some of us will already know that. But size matters in the context of relationships. So let me ask you to think for a moment and ask you to think, well, I'm about to give you a project for improvement. I'm about to say, I'd like you to do a project for improvement, and the person that's going to do it with you is the most miserable and negative person in the organization. How successful do you think you're going to be? I can tell you, you're not going to be very successful, because you're going to spend an enormous amount of time trying to motivate that individual to actually put a strategy and a plan together and actually use improvement methodology to move things forward. What I can tell you is if you have a bigger team, it will be safer to explore the issues. You will become more open to change, and you will continue to drive and improve things. So I would ask you to really, really think about the size of the teams that you put together, but I would also say to you, don't forget Dawn. Now, Joy talked about Dawn, our union steward, who said, no, I'm having equity. She was the cynic in the room that day, and she's not normally. But that was really important. You need to listen to the cynics, because often they're telling you the things you don't want to hear. So when you build a team, you need a team that has a cynic in it, or has somebody who's finding it difficult, because they will ask the right questions. They will help you move things on.
So in terms of putting some meat on the bones, we start day one with a little bit of doom and gloom. We try and put some safety in the room for the participants. So we have the likes of David Scott Coombs saying, I've made a mistake. We look at the organisational mistakes that we've made, and we gradually spiral in that safety so that the teams are able to start to get to know each other and share within the room. And within that, many of you will know Martin Bromley, who set up the Clinical Human Factors group, and we watched the video. It's quite painful to watch the video of around the death of his wife, Elaine, and the lessons that we learned from that. And when Ruth and I introduced ourselves, we said, hello, my name is, and that's a tribute to the fantastic Dr. Kate Granger, who sadly died last year of renal cancer. And she got frustrated as a patient. The thing that made the difference to her was people introducing themselves. So the key message there is that it doesn't matter how small things can make a really, really big difference. And after quite a tough morning, we then put in applied positive psychology, the science of happiness, the joy in work bit, if you like. And we have a great guy called Mark Hodder, and again, there's a reference there to all of the material that we use there. Simple things that make us happy. We know that a well-performing team has 3 positive comments to 1 negative. A high-performing team has 5 positives to 1 negative. How much difference does that make? It costs absolutely nothing. In the UK, we can be quite negative. Just imagine the scenario. You get the phone call, you're going to go to work and you know you're going to be short-staffed. You've got options. You can go in and say, oh, doom, gloom, we're short-staffed, we're never going to get through it, can't wait for the end of the day. The impact on your staff? Or you can say, hey, we're it. We're the A team. These are our priorities. We're going to deliver the very best we possibly can today. Let's get on and enjoy and support each other. It really doesn't change anything except the hearts and minds. And we know that putting in applied positive psychology increases well-being, reduces sickness, and increases productivity. So there is an ulterior motive for this, so that our teams actually start to properly bond, be positive, enjoy their work, and we create that space then to not just deliver the work, but also to deliver the improvements. So that's day 1 done. Day 2, they have quite a tough day, and that's around the systems diagnostics, the technical side of things. And we use a lot of the lean diagnostics. So they get to grips with things like process mapping, fishbone diagrams, Pareto. And they start to explore their problem and define a problem statement. And so that we start to properly understand that problem before we start to put in a solution. And then we start to think about what it is we're trying to achieve.
Joy and I are getting better at doing Mr. Potato Head as well.
And we make it fun and we make it very, very practical. So they start to get to grips with these tools. Day 3 is the day on leadership, and you've already heard some of the detail around that. So they go away after those first 3 days for about a month. They put their applied positive psychology in place. They start their leadership, where they've really started to think about purpose for them. What really matters to me on an individual basis and on a team basis? And they start their systems diagnostics. About a month later, they come back with understanding their system better, and we have 2 great days on the model for improvement, where they then really start to think about what their aim statement is, put some measurement systems in place so that they know that change is an improvement, and some creativity skills to generate those ideas that might result in an improvement. And we've had some great support from people like our 1,000 Lives team from Wales, and from other sort of national and international support. But we also found some fantastic people that actually worked with us, so it was great. So they go away for a month, apply the model for improvement. And then they come back for another 2 days. One of those days is very progress orientated. We have a day on human factors, building on the work that Martin Bromley has done. And we have somebody who's a retired British Airways pilot doing a very interesting and engaging day for us. And we explore the communication. When we work in teams very regularly, we use social language. But when we get into a critical state, we need to really understand how we switch that language and make it more professional and make people stand up and listen properly. We look at the personality we bring to work. We've already talked about miserable people and the impact that has versus the people that have adopted that applied positive psychology. That really, really makes a difference. And we have a choice. We can choose our behaviour. Again, we look at situational awareness. When a crisis is going on, it's very easy to get tunnel visioned and then lose the context of what's going on around you. And that really was what happened to Elaine Bromley in her death. A very eminent team focused on what they were doing and hadn't really appreciated the fact that time was going on and that people were trying to give them advice, but they hadn't heard it. And we also look then a little bit about stress and how we recognize stress in ourselves and how we manage that stress and how we support each other. Really very important. And the final day of learning, we try and pull it all together. So it's a project-based day because they're going to be focusing a month down the line on presenting their progress. So we have facilitators in to help them think about where they're at and where they need to get to. And we also have a motivational speaker, and we've had several sports people. And this is a picture of the fantastic Liz Johnson, who's a Welsh girl and lives in the next city in Newport. She was born hemiplegic and she became a Paralympian swimmer. She has got incredible drive. She set the goal. She tells us about dreaming big, daring to dream, wanting an Olympic gold. She talks about getting the right team around her, which includes her family, so that everybody is working to that goal, all knowing their role and what they're going to deliver. And then there's that constant measuring, monitoring, testing to get those marginal gains for success. And as a paraplegic, she's overcome so many obstacles. She finds a way round. That was the challenge to us. If it matters to you, you find a way round. You go round it, you go over it, but you continue your journey. And she'd suffered some quite injurious setbacks leading up to the Beijing Olympics. And she wondered whether she was going to be fit enough to endure the race. She said goodbye to her family. She went to Seoul, South Korea, to base camp, and then flew up to Beijing and got into the Olympic Village. Got into her room with her roommate, and the team manager came in, and they both looked at each other and said, "Oh God, what have you done?" But her mother had died while she was in transit. She knew that her mother had cancer, but she didn't know that when she left the family, that was going to be the last time she saw her. Quick phone call to the family. They'd all bought into her Olympic gold. They reassured her that there was nothing that she could do except to get in that swimming pool and swim for her life. And she did. So very, very powerful lessons for us in terms of setting goals, daring to dream, and continuing.
Joy talks and shares that story so that we can understand the power of behaviour and the impact that a story can have. While you have other staff within that room, the 100 delegates that we've had going through our programme now, they will be having those life-changing events happening to them. Inevitably, they will. So actually, we take time to recognise that and support them. Basic things like the location and the food that you provide as part of that programme. It may seem simple, but it's actually really, really important. So taking people away from their normal place of work, taking them to somewhere that's really nice. It happens to be the cricket ground in Cardiff, the Whitlock Stadium, and actually providing them with really, really good quality food. It doesn't cost a great deal when you look at what it is that we're getting back. We're getting stronger, more engaged teams. We're getting more empowered and developed individuals. And actually, some of our programs are actually saving the organisation some money. But most importantly, we're improving the quality of care that we give to our patients. So to mark that, we have a celebration event at the end of each program, as Joy says. So here's some of those individuals coming together to show off, to tell us what they've done, to demonstrate the improvement that they've made so far. These aren't finished products. This is an ongoing program. So therefore, they haven't always got an end product to show at this point. Now, we invite some key people to this celebration event. So the clinical boards who supported them and their line managers who supported them to be there are invited. All of my executive colleagues come to this event because they recognise its importance, and our independent members on the board attend. And the independent members actually get to have that opportunity to talk with staff who are trying to change things within the organisation. It is really, really powerful when I get back into the boardroom and I start discussing some of these issues and how we're trying to improve, particularly around the quality and safety agenda. So it educates them. It allows me as the leader for quality and safety to keep on driving that agenda. We invite, because we're very close to Welsh Government, we invite key people from the Welsh Government, such as the patient safety leads within Welsh Government and Aidan Fowler, the Thousand Lives Director. We also invite the Director General of the NHS in Wales, and he's very generous in his time and frequently does attend when he can. And on previous meetings, we have also had the opportunity to have Mark Drakeford, who was our previous Minister for Health and Social Care. And Mark was very clear about what he saw. he was clear that actually as teams of people we can make a difference for our patients. So that was good for our staff. They felt really valued. But actually what we helped them understand is that they can influence the strategic agenda of the NHS in Wales. And that's actually what they did in that room on that day. It also doesn't do a bad job for showing the work that we're doing in our health board, in Cardiff and the Vale Health Board. So in every way, you are influencing and really growing those leaders for the future. They also get to meet these people who go to the bathroom just like we do. It's really important. But of course, there's challenge. So the ongoing providing of support, the keeping track of where we are with the QI programs, it is often quite difficult. And the more people doing this, the more challenging that gets. But actually, the more people on the ground using QI as part of normal practice actually does make a difference and move things on. So there's a balance between those two things. And currently within the organisation, as we talk about our transformation programme, we are agreeing that actually these are the tools that we will be using in every project that we take forward. So staff, the mass and the inviting everybody to the party agenda and mobilising the workforce is beginning to happen. But we are on our 4th year, so this takes time, so you have to keep at it. I think the other thing is around returning on investment. You can't be in an organisation with financial challenge without being able to demonstrate that this is worth investing in. So the key here really is to be able to demonstrate, because we continue to watch how these programs grow and develop, not only the quality improvement for the patients and the improvement in team building, but the financial bottom line, because that is something that we have to deliver collectively as a board. So what difference does all of this make at the end of the day? It's quite interesting that when we invite our staff to talk or they win awards, they frequently are those individuals who've undertaken this program. When you talk about improvement and what a difference things have made for redesigning mental health services or rebuilding a brand new children's hospital for Wales, these are often the tools that people have used. So these are just some examples of our achievements. 550 people and 96 teams have gone through this program. Our patients told us that one of the worst things in our hospital and the thing that mattered to them was our dreadful bathrooms. So, team in the maintenance department decided that actually that was a piece of work that they really wanted to work on. And we currently have a program for improvement of bathrooms within the health board. Remember, it's those little things that matter to our patients. They tell us about things like bathrooms, things like food. They're not necessarily interested in what their chemotherapy is going to be. But where they have a bath or a shower or go to the bathroom is really important. So people were starting to focus on key things. I didn't know that we had a potential listeria problem, but I'm ever so glad that quite a few of our catering staff came together to make sure that I don't come down with that. Thank you very much. But also professors came to the table. So our consultant body recognised the importance and the benefit that this program would bring. So one of our cardiac surgeons brought together a team and improved cardiac wound infections significantly. And whilst he was at it, he saved in and around £190,000. And our nephrology and transplant team have done a considerable amount of really positive work on early detection and management of acute kidney injury and reducing the use of central lines. And they're just some examples. If you look at our slides, you will see that there are other examples. And of course, we continue to move on, and we have new groups of people showing us and demonstrating that this program makes a difference. So today, we hope that we've been able to define the appropriate leadership and QI components for system-wide learning and development. We've explored strategies to apply them across the healthcare community and the development of a sustainable future. We also believe that we've brought to you some understanding of the difference that leadership can make and how important it is for me as a leader and you as a leader to have a few more joys in your life because we need them and they are out there. So, joy, in conclusion.
We couldn't talk about QI and leave out the fantastic W. Edwards Deming, who is really the founder and father of where we are today. He was born in 1900, for those of you who haven't heard of him. So he would be 117, but he is dead. And the words that he spoke and has written are as valid today as they were at the time. And we were referred to the 14 points of good management this morning. So in conclusion, it's not enough to do your best. You must know what to do and then do your best. And learning is not compulsory, neither is survival.
So we would encourage you to come and join our party, because it's really quite fun to do. Thank you.